can take those questions now. Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
Okay, let's just check SG.
Yep.
Can the team just hand over the roving mics? Comrade Andres, please assist the DIP team with the media relations team from DIP with a list of all the reporters that are here so that we can do the lineup of who is starting and all of that. Because I don't think that our media relations team has covered that. So it's easier when we do what the SG says we must do soon after this meeting. Okay? Yeah? The media outlet will present and your name, and then proceed with your question.
The university closed a scheduled conference within a dedicated time. Does this reflect on any way on the party's ability to govern the nation provincially and locally? And then secondly, we are also told that the entire top seven will be here. Unfortunately, that's not the case. Will the other women join us soon? Thank you.
Okay, we'll take the next question, but I think the SGP clarified that the media briefing we spoke about yesterday of the top seven is going to take place, but it will take place on the sidelines of the NPC or of the continuation of this conference, because they want to just communicate and convey to yourselves all the decisions, including the declaration.
Thank you so much for the news from Africa. The content of the President's closing address was that based on the discussions in the ANC's commission or on what views, particularly regarding some of the decisions that they said the ANC must take, the NHI corruption and so on.
Let's take all the heads, and then the SGO will answer. They can take 10. To avoid any temptation, the reporters are here. So questions like those must be written down and answered to the reporters. So please, avoid any temptation. They are coming, they are here. Okay, let's proceed.
You have chosen which questions you want to answer.
Let me answer this one. Maybe I'm going, but I don't think so.
Arguale Bul. Arguale.
Okay, all the hands. I'm just taking all the. So I just take. So as SG said, we just take this round the answer because you are going to be engaging with the reporters. There was also the gender reference group which had its own commission. Then they presented previously, but we just make sure that the SGO deals with it. Comrade Mongola, the DSG is here, and Marubi, they will be able to deal with those our two DSGs.
Thank you very much. My name is also from Power. I know I'm going for format national spokesperson. You've mentioned that the issue around gender parity will be discussed by the chair of the commission. However, seeing that the women that are now elected by chair themselves, I'm sure they will want to have some form of contribution here. So my question with regards to
this one.
You
take that one.
You
Okay.
take her, you take Kutazov, and you come last. Then we're closed for all the countries. Let's move that. So we're not going to recognize any new hand. We go with the ones we have. You can.
I just wanted to know if there's clarity on what the role of the two DSGs will be going forward.
Sunday Times. Said that he was very unhappy with the attendance or lack of women as compared to that of men. I just wanted to, as the I just wanted to check, was it in the guidelines that the attendance here will be 50-50 and that where a branch is sending two, they will make sure that one is a woman, and where there's three, you will make sure that two are women. I don't know if I understand on this somewhere. What happened there? I believe the president said up there that he was unhappy and that there were more men here. Can you just explain perhaps what happened there? Thanks. Good afternoon. Kamran Mohitan Baza from Karasiata. I'm not too sure if I'll be directed, but my question is directed to Mark Bennett over the DSG. And I just want to know if are you, because we have been in the trans team that was given a duty to overseas. So I just want to find out, are you aware of the waivers that have been paid in the office of the president and also in the office of the FG? Are you aware of that? If yes, what have you done about it? If no, what are you going to do about it? Because it's so sad when you listen to their stories. Because those are the people that we are staying with, they are families, we are staying with our neighbors. So, are you aware of that? If not, maybe what is it you're going to do? Thank you.
Gavin, I gave you a chance. I did say that was the last round. We are now going to proceed with answers. I think the question that you are asking has to do with the NEC of the Women's League, not what Comrade Marupin is doing now as the coordinator. But it's okay, he will answer.
It has to do with the woman's league. It has to do with the woman's league.
The NEC of the women's, the first one that.
They are still in the employ of the ANC. Okay.
Oh, sorry, Comrade Nombola, the DSG just clarified me. They will deal with the question. They are more in the know about also clarify. Okay. Okay, DSG.
I'll give the second TSG and the first TSG to answer the questions they can answer, and then I'll close.
Okay, thank you very much, Comrade Secretary General. I'll start with the issue of the AFC Women's League. All I know is that all our staff members have been paid by the AFC Women's League. And this we're talking about staff members that have got contracts at least with the AFC Women's League. If there's anyone else who claims not to be paid and has got a contract with the AFC Women's League, we'll definitely, they can come to us and we'll speak about it. On the issues of those that were directly paid by the ANC, all of them that I know about have been paid and are continued to be paid by the Office of the Treasurer General, of course, just like all the staff members of the ANC. So if there's anybody else who's raising issues, they can just come and talk to me and I'll be able to assist them. But we are not aware of anybody who has a contract with us or with the ANC who hasn't been paid. If there are people maybe who've been there, but their contract ended at some specific point, that part we will not be able to assist because people who are not doing work cannot be paid, or people who don't have contracts cannot be paid, because how are we going to base the payment of such people, especially when we do auditing on. So, but if there's anything like that, please tell them to come and talk to us. I think I would also just like to address the issue that was raised by the colleague from Power FM on the issue of the issue of 3 women, is it an issue of numbers or is it a qualitative issue? I think first of all, we are comrades and members of the ANC in our own right, and we've got credible credentials to be elected, of course, where we are. It is definitely not about issues of numbers, but it is more on ensuring that the ANC does reflect its own membership, but it also reflects on gender parity, which is very important. It's not about crunching numbers and just to say that we've got 3, but if you look at where we are based as members of the organization, we are based in the SGO, which is the machinery of the organization, as well as the treasury, which is of course where resources will be dispersed to be able to assist the organization to do its programs. So I would not say that it is about numbers, but it is more about the qualitative contributions and roles that will be played in order to ensure that the organization called the ANC will definitely do what it's supposed to do. I think I'm fine.
Thank you very much, Comrade Malpini, GSG. On a lighter note, after we were elected yesterday, myself and Comrade Malpini told the SG that we are all SG. And we're looking forward to working together as a collective. Just dealing briefly with the issue of the 2 GSGs. In the organizational renewal engagement of the ANC and the review of the structure of the ANC, one of the things that came out glaringly was the political incapacity at the level of headquarters, that in as much as you may have administrative capacity, you do need additional political leadership that can share different responsibilities so that there is authority in whosoever has that mandate. And out of those deliberations, we then went to the policy conference, and that's when there was this proposal mooted, which then was adopted yesterday. Where we are, it is quite clear that the roles and responsibilities will be in line with the plans around the reorganization of the ANC and the role of the SG in terms of political management, strategic leadership, as well as providing guidance on the functioning of the National Executive Committee and all structures of the ANC. So it is not just a decision that has been arrived at with regard to creating space for additional people. It is informed by the review as well as the modernization process of the African National Congress, and we are looking forward to those responsibilities already being spelled out in the Constitution as well as in the program of action for the coming 5 years, and the inputs that are going to come from the commissions on organizational renewal, organizational management, as well as organizational development. The second issue that I want to also deal with, what are the plans for the women's agenda? The agenda is informed by the aims and objectives of the ANC, that of building a non-racial and non-sexist South Africa. But amongst other things is to ensure that we have capacity and capability not only of individuals but the institution, the African National Congress, of being able to be gender sensitive as well as being able to be conscious in taking decisions, as well as ensuring that we respond to issues that affect women, not only on the social front, but also in the area of security, in the area of leadership, as well as in the area of economic development. There is a document that was presented in the policy conference. It has since been incorporated in the organizational report that speaks on those issues that are going to be prioritized. And once the resolutions are adopted, that would also be shared with your good selves post to the Mangaung meeting that is going to be a hybrid session. What are the reasons for the adjournment of this conference? The reasons are straightforward. Many of our delegates have to go to work tomorrow. They have to report for duty. Secondly, we also had challenges about the accreditation process, because headquarters has actually been ahead of our members in terms of using a system that our members had not necessarily complied with, and that actually created a problem. On the issues of elections and stuff, we know that at plenary, delegates also have a right to nominate from the floor. And of importance is that everybody who was also nominated from the floor had to go through that vetting process that everyone went through prior to the nominations being pronounced by Comrade Khalid. So there was work that was done the entire night yesterday until this morning at 2:30, between ourselves in the ANC working together with the electoral committee. So there was work, and that is one of the things that was overlooked, that being nominated, it must not automatically mean you go into the ballot. There must also be, you must fulfill that process that the guidelines had actually put out as a condition. On the representation of women and what the President has raised, part of the constitutional amendments were also sharing, just reflecting earlier on with Comrade Marubeni, the DSG, that one of the constraints is the constitutional requirement. The ANC branches have grown, but as they have grown, the Constitution says a branch has to be represented, a branch in good standing has to be represented by one delegate. So what you do then, you first allocate every branch in good standing, one delegate. And that actually reflected that the majority of the delegates who were then elected by branches were men. So it immediately just created a problem. And then the proportional allocation was an allocation that was given to those branches that have got more than an additional 150 and then another 150 going upward. And that's where then gender parity applied, where you have the second delegate being a female. Of course, in the 4,000, there are, I think in our estimation, were almost just 270 that were represented by women. And we do believe that it's quite an indictment on the ANC, and a lot of work has to be done. So that constitutional requirement, SG, that says 1, we definitely have to look at it. It does not say 2. And imagine if we had 2, we would have had 8,000 just as a start, being representatives of branches only. The non-attendance in commissions, one of the things that we have also registered is exactly that. Without defending those who actually went AWOL from commissions, provinces had met, and there were submissions. And in one of the commissions that I chaired, we had a lot of submissions that were coming from the provincial presentations. So we do take note that the ones a poor attendance in some, not even in all of them, but there was also submissions that were made on behalf of a province or on behalf of a sector. The leagues themselves have also had their submissions presented in the different commissions. I think SG, those are the areas that I would respond to, and you may then add if I've omitted anything. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Top 7, I've promised you that, and I still keep that promise, and it will happen next year. The top 7 of the ANC, led by the President before January 8 in Mangaung. The allegation that our commissions were poorly attended, it's a poor, unfounded fabrication. Because we finished, I briefed you yesterday, we finished around 12 o'clock, the commissions. We voted up until that time. So you were voting from the commissions for the top 7, and that is what happened. So our commissions were well attended, and they produced good results. And the rapporteurs and the chairs of the commissions will give you the flavor of what was discussed and what is the attitude of the delegates and the conference on a whole number of issues, up until we come back to you again in about 2 weeks or 3 weeks. The president of the ANC is the custodian of policy. He pronounces policy. It means he has read the resolutions. He has a thorough understanding of what is the spirit of conference on a whole number of issues. So there's nothing like personal views from the president. He is given that by the ANC constitution. Just like me, I'm the custodian of the ANC constitution. You misbehave, I deal with you. And there will be no retreat on that. That's what this conference has bestowed on me, not as Mbalula, Secretary General. Is expected to enforce the law of the ANC. Renewal or death. That's what we must do. When we say we renew, we must be unambiguous about the renewal. It must be felt, it must be seen that this is the party that is renewing itself, not a party that comes to a conference and struggles with registration. In the era of technological highway, people are using technology and all of that. What happened here will be something of the past. The ANC must be dynamic. Good things and advanced things must be seen from the ANC. Just like South Africa, when you want to see good things in style and fashion, you always look at Soweto. And then you know that Soweto. Then Ronabo Mbalula ba Freestata re tla be re latela. Thereafter we'll just be following, because Soweto has been a trendsetter in many ways. Because they are just next to OR Tambo Airport. Soweto people. So Tina, we are very far from airports where we come from. We don't even, it is only during the era of democracy that we got exposed to airports and aeroplanes. So that is the report, that is the issue with regard to the matter of the president address. The issue of role of 2 DSGs, each one of them will have a role to play, but they've got their strength as persons, but we want everyone to express themselves and not close them down on what the Constitution says it is expected from them. It means they must do the political work. They are political officers. The Deputy Secretary General's role in the main was reduced to administrative work. But even if it is not written in the Constitution, Nomvula and Maropeni, they are political animals. They must express themselves. They must lead and not become administrators. They must lead politically and based on their capabilities and their strengths. Yesterday, DSGs, I was asked about what am I bringing in this portfolio by Nkokeli, I think. Yeah, so I explained to him that my upbringing and training is organizational development and party construction. I'm an expert on that. I was trained very, very, very far about that work. So, in the school of excellence called the ANC Youth League, I was trained in that. So I was trained also by the Germans. So when you do my profiling, I'll give you some things you don't know. But we leave that to one-on-one, okay? But thank you very much. We are continuing, like we said, so you will get the result this afternoon. So we don't want to delay. Over to the presenters. And thank you, Comrade Pule, for the diligent work you are doing with the media. Your job is guaranteed. Thank you.
You get voted for. He doesn't know. Eh? I said it's not voted.
Well, thanks very much to the SGO for the time. Thanks so very much. We are still going to be here with the commissions for the next 3-4 hours. Last time we did 6 hours. So, still going to be a bit hectic. Okay, we are going to start with ETC. Colleagues from the media. One of the journalists or delegates or those who came to listen left their phone here. Not here. They left it on the chair. Okay, you can check this leaf. You need to. Okay. Okay, now my colleague Mamalo said she wants to save me from names because we have issues during the policy conference. So, yes. Okay. Strategy treaties. That's fine. That's okay. Can I be allowed to run the order? We are starting with ETC, and then from ETC we'll move to strategy and tactics. So reporters mustn't worry. I've got the program of DIP. Let me just assist. We've got a DIP program. We've invited reporters to come. It is DIP that is in charge here. So DIP invites reporters to come. So cadres must follow the directives and instructions of DIP. Let's run like that. Comrade Mamuloko, we start with you, you present, from there we move like that. Thanks.
Thank you, Comrade Pule. Afternoon, colleagues, comrades, the SG, the DSG, first DSG and second DSG. I'll run through, as Comrade Pule has said, that the resolution is going to be subjected to conference to look at. Maybe firstly just indicate that the work obviously is what we have done during the policy conference, the discussion there, and enhance our work to have a resolution. Let me start first around, we had various areas that we looked into, and maybe I might just flag some of the discussions that have happened in the plenary, in the commission. I must say we had quality discussions, people who are experts, coming from various fields that participated in our commissions. We had two rooms of commissions in the economic space, and then we'll just highlight what we add to the discussion. On the land, agriculture, and food security, that's the first one I'll start with. It was firstly, because I'm going to just flag the discussions as the SG has said. We've looked at the issue of land. One, on the basis that the discussion said, we must be clear that we need land for human settlements, land for economic activity, but land that also assists us in redistribution to address the apartheid special development or the framework. So that's how the issues are. There are policy proposals that we're expecting that conference delegates will process on the 5th. And part of what has been, as I said, it's looking at the whole in terms of land redistribution, land reform, but also in terms of ensuring that it becomes an economic activity in the hands of the majority. It was understanding of the Commission that giving to the effect of the constitutional principle in section 25.5 that the state must ensure equitable access to land by everyone. And acknowledging that we were not able to amend the Constitution as per the last resolution, but understanding again that we are able to continuously expropriate with or without compensation for public interest and public good. On energy security and just transition, we acknowledge that there is a need for us to transition, but emphasis that the current load shedding and what is happening is currently crippling the economy and also affecting social stability perspective and national security. So the emphasis around restoring the energy security critical, and also acknowledgement that we have to transition from high carbon to low carbon. So those issues are important, and the emphasis around effectiveness of running ESCOM and ESCOM being able to play its role within the development of our country. So I will not go into detail, but again, the issue around, and the emphasis around just transition is that it must be at a pace and at the cost that the economy can afford. That's part of the discussion, but understanding that we have communities and workers that must be protected and reskilled. So this is also reaffirmation of the work that has been done. Continuous work around or the re-emphasis of, which I know that might be one of the interests, the re-emphasis of our IRP and the need for it to be updated, but also looking at energy security within the oil and gas space where exploration needs to continue. That's some of the issues that are coming through, and also saying that we should be able to leverage on our relationships in BRICS to be able to benefit out of this work that we need to go. On green economy, there's an understanding that this is one of the areas that can assist us to grow the economy, but also to create jobs. So part of what we looked at is around the issues of electrical vehicles. Here, the issues that are coming through is around infrastructure that is needed, around incentives, and also being able not to lose out in terms of the global market that is needed. So incentives that must be expended for EVs, but also ensuring that we can be able to continue with our manufacturing capacity as a country. On macroeconomic policy, there was an issue or a debate around whether the current fiscal policies are assisting us or not, and also where they just believe that we continue on a constraint in terms of conservative approach. Others were saying that. So the debate was around that fiscal policy, but what we have agreed upon here, or what the Commission will be recommending and what has been the debate, is that government must continue to utilize the fiscal policy to intensify the fight against poverty, inequality, and also hunger. So those are some of the issues, and utilize it as a tool to spend money in areas where it can grow the economy. On monetary policy, there will be continuing on an emphasis of the role of the Reserve Bank. The discussion was there, re-emphasizing the decision of the policy conference in terms of the role of the Reserve Bank and reaffirming. I must say here, the discussion was also incorporated with experiences from delegates who were talking about the impact of food prices and cost of living, and therefore reflection to say, is there a role for the Reserve Bank to play in this area? And I must emphasize, here on the Reserve Bank, and because sometimes we get confusion that maybe we should amend the Constitution. The issue of ownership has nothing to do with the Constitution. The Constitution, if we are to amend it, will deal with the mandate. But the issue of ownership It's around buying the pricing and buying out the people who are there in terms of what we call the shareholders. And therefore the prices, because if we are to tamper with that and not do it in the current context where we'll be able to give them the value in terms of price, as they call it out. Minister Odo Okombetino would have explained this during a briefing in the morning, one of the morning briefings that he done. Okay, on the financial sector transformation, we re-emphasize again the issue one around the State Bank, that it has to be done. That is going, but more around a need to deal with available resources or capital for small businesses, for buyers towards as well, ensuring that there is access to capital, particularly for SMEs, women, youth-owned enterprises, and also military veterans. There's been a substantive submission from military veterans on issues that we should stop around focusing on their support as social, but more around empowerment. So we find as well infusion of women, youth, but also with military veterans included together with people with disability. So the State Bank issue, we reaffirm, but also there's an issue around the fintech startup sector by providing new businesses with access to capital. So we do believe that the whole financial sector is not assisting in terms of transforming the economy, but also for support for the vulnerable, especially the small businesses and issues of women businesses. We reaffirmed as the Economic Commission, because previously there's been issues around social grant, but as the ETC we are not supportive. So in this discussion we did elaborate that we support the issues of social grant, especially basic income grant, and also that it should be incorporated based on the experiences that we have seen. And therefore, part of what we are saying is also emphasis around how it's done, and also to be able to expand work opportunities as well of those who are in the package. So we thought that while it's in the social transformation, quite a lot of questions have been coming to us whether we support what the social transformation is saying, and we needed to reaffirm this because there's been extensive work that was done by both the committees in terms of the NEC. And then there's emphasis of SMEs, cooperatives, township and rural economies and informal sector. Here we dealt with it in the policy conference. There isn't much, we are just re-emphasizing, and I'll come to the areas where we, especially on township and rural economies, just to reflect on what we are emphasizing. But what we have pronounced on the policy conference, there isn't anything that is changing there. We re-emphasize in that work. The skills as well, we are reflecting while we note that there is a committee that deals with the skills, but more around skills for the economy. On innovation and fourth industrial revolution as well, we do believe that this is one of the areas that can be able to create jobs for us and also assist us in growing opportunities for young people. And therefore, while we're noting that automation might create job losses, but we think that alternative training and capacitation for young people and people who are working will assist us to be able to grow the economy and get people to work. Just moving on infrastructure, one of the areas that we found here, especially linking to infrastructure, was on security for the economy. So as a commission, we felt that there is a need for strong emphasis that we must be able, from the safety and security point of view, secure the economy. Dealing with issues such as construction mafias, dealing with issue of damages to infrastructure is critical, and therefore we felt that it needed to be flagged while they are dealing with it in safety and security. And also the issue of corruption that is impacting on the confidence in terms of investment on the economy. On BEs and transformation and preferential procurement, the issue here is also emphasis of the preferential procurement laws that will assist us as a tool to be able to transform our economy. And here again we say preferential procurement must be done for black people, women, rural communities, youth, and people with disabilities and military veterans. So you find that consistently now we are including military veterans because, especially war veterans, we believe that we are the only country that does not look after the war veterans very well, and now we're bringing that infusion into our economic policy. The other issue around BEE is that we believe that there are currently inefficiencies that should be corrected so that we are able to have less opposition against triple BEE. We believe that the opposition out of BEE is more around, or transformation is more around the frustration by capital of those who invest because of the inefficiencies. But also here we are introducing the issue that there must be, in an expanded manner, the workers' opportunities in terms of ownership in the companies that they participate in. So there will be that as well. On market concentration, here we pay a special attention to retail sector, and here specifically it's around township and rural economies. We believe that big retail has displaced small businesses in our townships and also in rural areas where previously we would have seen family businesses thriving. Currently they do not have space, they are being displaced by big retail, and we are saying legislation and regulations must be in place to protect local economies and also township and rural economies so that we do not have more migration of people looking for opportunities in urban areas. On social compacting, we are emphasizing the need. We have noted that with this in policy conference we spoke about it. The addition here, we are acknowledging the work that is done by NETLEC, but we are calling for a review of NETLEC so that it can be, and checking whether currently it serves its purpose and it's able to assist us in ensuring that there is social compacting. So that's what we are, new thing that is there. On trade and industry, I think we are reaffirming nothing new there from previously in terms of the policy conference, manufacturing industry, protection, but also ensuring that localization, we can be able to expand in that area. On digital economy as well, it was there during policy conference. The discussion has been around digital economy to be able to assist us to grow. So access, and this will be expanded by Comrade Kumboto as they deal with their area, but here we are emphasizing the opportunities that are given by digital economy. On state-owned entities, we are here, I think the new thing that is more emphasis is that a comprehensive review of state-owned entities is important, but more importantly that the state-owned entities that are in line needs to move into the line departments is a recommendation. The new area as well, more emphasis around logistics. Here on logistics is that the logistics, we see it as area that will impact negatively on the economy if we do not pay attention. What happens in Transnet, the specific here, challenges of operational and financial experiences, but also saying that we do not want to wait until we see Transnet at the level where it is as form is, and therefore attention should be given here to improve significant inefficiencies that currently exist in our ports and also the work. Another area that is coming here is around aviation sector reforms, that we needed to see an opportunity presented by the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, particularly for being able to export utilizing aviation sector. So there's that work, and linking that with the transport Transnet work to say part of some of the things must be exported through ports and thus through air. I think Kumbe that is African Free Trade is more generic, it's based on what we have already raised previously in the policy conference.
Thanks, members of the presidency, members of the media, see already in your hands. I was actually sending a text to convey to the commission, just explaining myself that the reason why we started with ETC is because most of the topical issues that always bring about come out of this commission. And some of you have said that you want to start with them because you're rushing to doing fine. So I'm saying it here so that they know that it's not just my issue, it's what members of the media also brought up. Okay? We can start with who left was the next row. Okay, fast, yeah. Oh, someone also takes it. So we discovered someone. So she's from Texas. It's one of the Yes, so you can shoot. Can the legal relations team be here and assist?
As mentioned, I'm still going to avoid contact again. Mentioned something about land reform, and a topic that is being mentioned is like non-racialism, right? Specifically with the ANC law, we are talking about racialism. So my question then is, with the ANC's perception of non-racialism, how does this play into issues like land reform?
Okay, you can just, so Mamluk says we can just get all the questions and then she'll deal with them. All at once.
I just want to ask in terms of the issue of energy and just transition. Just a week ago, the Minister of Energy, William National, was in Malawi, and the community rejected the whole policy framework around energy transition, saying that it's too early, they are not skilled, and no one understands. I want to know, is there some sort of workaround educating community members around this whole process? And maybe, secondly, we speak about the issue of manufacturing electrical vehicles. Do you think the issue of load shedding has to be eradicated and dealt with first before we can move to the sector? And thirdly, investors are also seemingly worried and concerned around the issue of business forums, where large extortion happens here, and it seems though the members of the police do not have enough resources and capacity to root them out. This is also a concern affecting the economy's growth as well. Thanks.
My name is Michael from the Business Day. So, the Minister said that the ANC ETC discussed moving state-owned entities in line with their line departments. Does that mean we can possibly see ANC saying that state-owned entities like ESCOM should be moved from the DPE to the DMRE and perhaps a transnet to from DPE to the Transport Department? Also, were there any discussion about the SOE holding company that the government has been touting for a while now? And then another question is, the running theme in the Zondo Commission was that the ANC used single entities to funnel some funds, or leaders of the ANC, to funnel some funds from the SOEs to the party itself. Were there any discussions on how to stop this at SO politically?
My first question was on the what was the mood also of the participants on this one? Was it in favor of buying out the shareholders, the private shareholders? And if so, what their indication of where this money is going to come from? My second question is also on the basic income, just on the basic income grant. The delegates push for a wealth tax to fund the basic income grant. If not, what were there discussions about how it's going to be funded? And then lastly, on the review of SOEs, to follow up on those questions, was there an indication of which SOEs should move to line departments? Is it just ESCO or should it be all other SOEs? And if they do, what is the Department of Public Enterprise?
Hi, I'm Professor Short. Just to follow up on what you said, one thing the discussion on expanding the mandate of the government to include economic growth. Secondly, the JIP translate transition investment plan. Was that discussed at all, and what was the action of this one? You spoke about using fiscal policy to against policy. If this is better, what does that mean? Are you advocating for increase of debt, or how do you see that happening?
Thank you so much. My name is Robert Wiggles from Vision Africa.
Are we done with all the questions? No, because we're not going to have another round of questions. So let's just take the questions. Comrade Mamluk and then he goes.
I just want to find out if there was any discussion about the arts-based basic economy commission, what was some of the views that were put forward as a result of that.
Did you?
So,
before sir, did you indicate your... What?
Oh, the start.
I want to understand.
Okay, you can proceed. Please,
Oh, yes. Thanks to the audience of the Sunday Times. On the issue of the just transition forces, just how empathy with such as around those that these countries that are sponsoring our transition from
So Mamluk was just asking because she's noting all the questions that they have been asked. So she doesn't want to miss because all the questions are important. So she was just asking that if
you can proceed.
You can proceed.
So as I was saying, what would it be on just transition from how emphatic were the proponents of the debate that said that we set up to make these European countries that are sponsoring us on this particular moving away from coal are actually the ones who are taking our coal. And that was one sense, case in point, being genuine, where we saw them shutting down a solar farm and turning it into a coal-fired power station. How we were proponents of that particular line in this technology.
Okay, Sam?
Thank you so much, Minister. Okay. Minister, you mentioned food prices and inflation. What should be done about it? Any ideas what you guys want to do about it? Incentive schemes. But also, when watched this coming over the years, any feeling from you about the nature of the debate? It seems to deal with a lot of nitty-gritty around the policy. Is that actually a reason for that you are saying in the high level level around the PT1? What does it mean about that? And also, how government implements the policy?
Okay. Okay, that's last. So
thank you. Thank you very much. Minister, is there any still worried about
just say your name, media outlet.
Is this the ANC or other members not worried about government's uncontrollable appetite to borrow it? The interiors now, IMF, borrowing to secure the country's sovereignty. Are we not going to be trouble? Thank you.
Okay, those are all the questions.
Thank you very much. Let's start with the issue raised by so far. So, yes, the AC stands for non-racialism, but why it stands for non-racialism? The Constitution does acknowledge that there is a need for redress. So, before we can be on the same footing, we must address the past imbalances. We continue to see the majority of the population, majority of South Africans having no access to land, no access to economic opportunities. 5% of the wealth in the country majority of the wealth in the country remains in the 5% of the population. So why do we in the non-nation, the fact that job transformation and access for previously disadvantaged communities does not mean that negates the work of non-nations. Just transition and the work that has been done. The commission that has been appointed by the President released a framework for just transition. part of the issues that we have done interviews and community engagements. As you are correctly saying, Mr. Mandasha and some of the ministers, including Mr. Kisi, have been engaging communities. The message that we get from communities is that the pace must not outpace, we must not outpace the time we move must not outpace the level where we are still and end up with people not being able to find a living. So that's why we talk about the pace and the speed that we are doing. So as we do this repurposing of the plants in the areas, especially when we look at the submission, for example, from Mpumalanga province, they've made a very substantive input around the issues of their concerns as a province, their communities. As you know, this is a province that is more around hosting quite a lot in terms of our coal mines and our coal plants. So they've made that substantive concern. They are not saying we shouldn't transition, but they are saying the pace you are moving in should not be too fast that it leaves the workers and the population behind. On the issue of electrical vehicles, yes, we acknowledge the challenges of electricity currently, but we are saying let's prepare ourselves, because remember, South Africa is currently one of the we export vehicles, and quite a number of countries are very sensitive and already putting barriers to say by 2030 they would not be able to export if we are not doing electric vehicle or fuel cells cars that are done with hydrogen fuel cells. So it's part of us starting to prepare in terms of policy, in terms of incentives to encourage manufacturing and repurposing of this. And that's what we're talking about, even building of infrastructure. Even if you are to move, you're going to have the charging points across the country, and therefore you need to start preparing and financing those infrastructure. That work has to start now while you're sorting out the electricity, so that by the time we're done with electricity and all this, we're not left out. The issue of investors worried about business forum, not only investors ourselves are worried. That's why in the document you find we're talking about securing the economy, and we're talking about construction mafias and all that. And our call is for more in the security cluster to assist us, or security area to assist in protecting the economy. So that concern is there, it's genuine, it's legitimate. We are accepting it as the ETC, and we are flagging it to say we have to protect the issues around. And I know Minister Tsele, in his capacity as Minister of Police, engages me in my capacity as Minister of Human Settlements, that sometimes us as those who are doing this are actually incentivizing this business forum. He says to us, we flash with them. So we have agreed in that capacity that we will have a joint meeting with all of us to find lasting solution, because it is worrying us. So there is work that is underway, some of the options that are being looked at currently, so that we can rebuild that confidence. Thando asked about the state-owned entities. This is a broad mandate, it's not specific to anyone. It says that for efficiency and for ease of reference, this decision and discussions have happened previously. The delegates were saying, can we put it more clearer that we want to see state-owned entities being in the land department for policy and also for coordination and implementation. On the issue of what the Zondo Commission says about state-owned entities, we didn't discuss it, but remember that the ANC has released a report in terms of state-owned entities and also how we deal with the Zondo Commission and the response, and the President has released a report as well. So those issues are covered. They were not discussed in the Commission. Kepas is asking about, I didn't know. The first one was about the mood. Not so sure what was the mood about Kepas. On the reserve bank. The ownership. Okay. Look, as I said, we reaffirmed in the previous discussions, one on the ownership and also on the mandate. And that's why it's linked with that question of the food and prices. To say, are we able to utilize the reserve bank to change in terms of addressing what we see? For example, someone would say the interest rate goes higher and therefore we are burdened as consumers. We lose the houses, we lose our jobs, we lose cars, but also SMEs are not able to repay their loans because of the high interest rates, because the inflation targeting. But what it was said is that we must go and look at the mandate. So that was the exercise. To say, look at the mandate of the reserve bank. Is it able to assist us? Not, and there was almost a balanced discussion there to say, we are not saying that we must be reckless to go and print money, but we are saying do what is necessary to protect consumers, but also protect the economy. We don't want to see high inflation that are out of control. We've seen what happens with Sri Lankas and others, and also we are saying, can you understand, find the balance in addressing where we are affected. So that would be the work that we have to do as we come out of here as a mandate of the Commission. On the basic on the basic income grant, the issue here, delegates were saying, while we saw the importance of the 350 in terms of alleviating poverty, making sure that people have food on their table, that cannot be disputed. And therefore, it forms a basis to say there is a need for a basic income grant. What must be finalized is how much it is, because currently there are various proposals, and the whole remember conference can't discuss where the funding is going to be. So in the implementation, government will have to find mechanisms to fund it. Whether that comes with a wealth tax or anything, but conference is saying, delegates are saying, we acknowledge this, how it has assisted families to have not to be living below poverty lines, and that has been acknowledged. I think I've answered the issue of the review of the SOEs as well. But we must know it's generally there was no specific mention to say this one, this one, this one. But it was that we acknowledge we've had this discussion as conference previously. We want this to happen as an implementation trip. So asked about the position of the Reserve Bank. I've touched on this. And then on the just energy transition, I think let me come to it more. Here, what conference and delegates are acknowledging is that we can't be oblivious to the fact that climate change is here and is affecting us. We've seen the impact of the floods and all those things. But yes, I think somebody was asking about the issues later, whether was there a reflection of what is happening in Europe? Yes, there was. That's why the issue is that do the just transition in a manner that it does not compromise our development, but also does not compromise lives and livelihoods of those that would be affected. So there is an acknowledgement and a call for a balanced approach. And then maybe linking this to a question around the financing. There was an emphasis that we must make sure that we do not overburden the state with debts and conditional grants that are unreasonable. And maybe to me, there's someone who was saying, we have already agreed on this. We have not signed finally. The arguments, my understanding, is that it's intention to work, but issues around government has raised concerns that if the conditions are not conducive, we will not agree to them. So there are negotiations, there's work that is being done. Our understanding from the ANC that work is being done in government to ensure that the conditions of the financing of just energy transition are not that of compromising the sovereignty of the country, but also not overburdening the future generation. And this, I want to link with the issue that was asked by Putin on the ground. It's not correct that we're borrowing more on IMF and World Bank. Actually, if you go and talk to the colleagues in Treasury, they will tell you a large portion of our borrowing is on local economy, our banks. So we're not borrowing a lot. It's not, even if I'm not mistaken, Enoch and Comrade David Mason can clarify this in detail. I think it's almost around 10% that we borrow outside. So it could be that we're seeing once in a while an announcement that we've taken this money. And by the way, the conditions currently have been very favorable in the manner that we have taken. So there isn't truth that we've taken more money in the reserve, in the world, IMF and all those things. It's more the money that we have borrowed, it's in terms of our local economy, our local banks. The question around what does it mean to update the RRP? You would note that as the demand of energy increases, there is a need to review the IRP to say what we need, how, and all that, and what. Ours remains a policy of a mixed energy. So we do not discuss discard any energy technology. So there is that level of moving, but we still have, for example, we can talk about updating the RP and we remove coal, because some of our plants still have more years to come. They would not close today. They will have 10 years, 20 years. We just go to the and Kusile, so they will still run while we are infusing the technologies to reduce carbon emissions out of those plants. It's part of the work that we do. We have a nuclear plant that we have extended its lifespan. It continues in that way. So it's not changing. The updating is to say which technology will give us which numbers of how many megawatts of the energy that we need. Leveraging of BRICS, obviously when we joined BRICS, it was the intention for us to learn from each other to get benefits. So there is benefit of being part of BRICS through even the BRICS Bank. So we'll explore the experiences of our BRICS partners in terms of skills and in terms of the work. Are we able to get some of the things cheaper from them? Are we able to get some of the work that we need to do in the energy space? Because this is where we clearly have a challenge. It's those that the delegates were saying. Siabonga, we didn't deal with the issue of the creative industry. I'll be lying if I say, and I'm hoping the police were dealing with agriculture dealt with it. So I have already explained everything. The issue of the debate around Poland in relation to Europe, obviously, as I said, that has been responded around the thing. Sam, I don't know if I answered your questions. Yes, I did. Okay, thank you very much. So those were the questions. Thank you very much. So I do not take much time from everybody because we do have our opponents, but I will continue offline with some of the colleagues if they want to engage. I don't want to include the press briefing. We have other commissions that have reported. So if there's follow-up, we can do offline.
Thanks. I know Chato wants to pick up some more questions from business. Before you file, you can talk to Mamlu. We can now move and go with the program. We'll now invite Comrade David Makura to do strategy and tactics. Is it combined with the first year renewal? Eh? She has gone to vote. Eh? Where is she?
Organizational renewal.
Okay. Is Comrade Fasia here? Eh?
She's voting.
She's voting. Oh, okay. No, that's fine.
Chair.
Okay, you can sit here. So, the mics. So, I'm now going to go to Comrade David Makura to present the strategy and tactics.
Thank you very much to you, Comrade Pule. I will just do a very high-level overview of what came from commissions on strategy and tactics, taking into account the fact that you guys also are tired, like us. The first thing I would like to say is that this 55th National Conference looked at the National Policy Conference discussions and conclusions on strategy and tactics. And just to remind you that at the policy conference we said there's been significant developments in the world, as well as some significant macro-social and political changes in South Africa. And all those taken together global new developments, as well as the changes in our own country. In many respects, also in the continent, tracking those developments was discussed by the commissions. The commissions proceeded also from looking at the report, the political report presented to conference by the president, the organizational report, but there was also a presentation to plenary on a document developed by the Renewal Commission. The detail of that will come there, but there are strategic issues or issues that have strategic implications in that document. So it was important to make reference to that. So the first thing I would like to say is that as a result of things I am going to say, these developments, I'll sketch the developments that are new, some of which are very substantial, they have strategic implications, and these developments at home. As a result of those, the conclusion of the different commissions. So I'm presenting a consolidated report of all the commissions on strategy and tactics. The difference between the previous report on the economy is that it comes from one commission put in one. We have had 16 commissions. In varying degrees, those commissions had this discussion. So what I'm presenting is a consolidated report of all those commissions. What did they say on strategy and tactics? So firstly, the commissions looked at the global balance of forces, amongst which major developments are the global crisis of neoliberalism. Strategy and tactics is about theorizing the revolution. It's about analyzing what is taking place in our world, in our continent, and in our country. And analyzing that and arriving at what action to take, informed by our strategic goal. The strategic goal of the ANC, to remind you, is to build a non-racial, non-sexist, united, democratic, and prosperous society, otherwise referred to as a national democratic society. So, analyzing those developments, so this issue of the crisis of neoliberalism and the rise of China is a major development. It's a very significant development in the world. It's not only the rise of China, but some of the developing countries like India are playing an increasingly important role, and some of the BRICS countries in this. So as a result of these shifts that are happening, the commissions looked at the need for the ANC to be absolutely clear when it takes positions, when our government interacts in global forums, in multilateral forums, informed firstly by what we stand for, and in what we stand for, what is in the best interest of South Africa. The second development that the commissions looked at is about the ongoing war in Ukraine, and that war has far-reaching implications. It has strategic implications, far-reaching implications. It has got geopolitical consequences on the economy, the global economy, but on the nature of that conflict also has an impact on peace in the world. The peace dividend is increasingly disappearing, getting shattered. It also undermines the sustainable development goals, the impact of war anywhere on people. Human security is, so peace and human security is in tatters if you look at this conflict. But also that war draws in major countries into that conflict. It's not just, so it's not correct to characterize it as the war between Russia and Ukraine. So NATO as a military alliance, so major countries in the world are involved in that war. That's why it has got geopolitical implications, major strategic implications. But the ANC and South Africa's approach to that must be to think about what it really means for peace and sustainable development. Briefly, also COVID-19, this is something that many of you know, the discussions have been there. The pandemic has huge implications. The climate crisis is a huge global development impact on communities across the world. So it requires a strategic global response, international solidarity. So, and the issues of major changes brought about by technology, particularly the fourth industrial revolution. So that's one of the things that the commissions on strategy and tactics looked at. What are the implications of this new technological or the digital economy, the technological developments? What are the implications of that on the world we seek to build and the way we organize society? So that's something that the Commission said it's important for the ANC as a progressive force of the left, a disciplined force of the left to continue to look at. Globally as well, the issues affecting women, this question of the gender agenda, it's a very critical issue, as well as the issues affecting young people. So if you're talking about all these issues have implications, particularly on women and youth. We're still in the global south. So the ANC needs to, when we talk about the gender agenda in our own country and the youth agenda, we have to understand that women and youth everywhere in the world are at the receiving end. And it's worse if these are black women and African youth, that they are more affected. If it's women and youth in the global south, they are more affected, whether by issues about the technological revolution or climate change. So the impact of, or the pandemics, the impact of those on where you are located in the world is not the same. The African continent, the Commission's also reviewed developments in the African continent. One of the big issues that the Commission's looked at is that the progress we were making in Africa on peace is getting reversed because there's a resurgence of conflicts in the different regions of our continent. Some of this conflict is arising out of coups, military coups, the resurgence of the bad hand of the military in wanting to run the affairs of countries. There is a period since 2002 when the AU was launched from the OAU. There's a period where we were making advances on the issues of peace in our continent, but we are moving in reverse. We are in some areas. In East Africa, in the Great Lakes, in some of the countries in West Africa. So that's an important development the Commission's looked at, but a very positive development is on the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, well articulated by Commissions, and the potential it brings for industrialization, economic integration, and trade, enhancing trade between the African countries. But in dealing with all these issues, both the global issues as well as the issues in our continent, and I'll come back to the domestic balance of forces, the Commission said that leadership is very, very important. We need coherent leadership globally. We need coherent leadership and decisive action in our continent, more coherent voice, and ensure that the continent moves in the same direction. We need a coherent leadership and resolute action in the global institutions, from the United Nations and all other multilateral institutions. In the absence of that, there will be all these multiple challenges as well as aspects of crisis will impact severely on humanity and human safety and human well-being and human security. So on the global issues, the conclusions across the board, the conclusions of the commissions are that in the preface to the strategy and tactics that was presented to conference, we need to rework that and bring that into the preface. Some of these issues are there, but others are new issues. But the ANC also need to work out a plan of action on those issues. How do we interact with them? How do we strengthen our response? So on the domestic issues, you would be interested a great deal in this. South Africa, the commissions moved from the premise that in 2024, South Africa will mark a very critical moment in our history. That is 30 years of our democracy on the domestic front. So 2024 is so important for our country, not only because we have an election, but 2024 is important to look back and say, what kind of South Africa have we built over 3 decades? We look back to 1994, and the Commission said, in the context of these 3 decades, so ahead of 2024, the ANC needs to do certain things. So from next year, so the first takeaway for you is that the ANC in 2023, so yes, in January we will conclude the deliberations of this conference, and what I'm saying from the commissions will be subjected to conference concluding sessions. But in 2023, one of the things the conference commissions are saying we must do is that the ANC needs to convene a series of strategy engagements, strategy sessions, including a strategy convention, not just of the ANC, but in that to bring along the democratic forces in our country, to bring along the alliance, to bring along progressive society. So we look at how far our country has evolved 3 decades into a democracy and say, going forward in the next decade, together, where are we taking South Africa? So one of the first those strategy sessions will be in 20, and the commissions were saying from mid-2023, so the ANC needs to bring onto a platform progressive forces in South Africa to look at what the next decade for South Africa should be like. So that strategy session in 2023 is not an election strategy session. It's not an election. It's not to discuss the ANC's election strategy. That will be done. But it's a strategy session of the democratic forces, progressive forces in our country, civil society, those forces that believe in the transformation of South Africa, those forces that believe in constitutional democracy, those forces that believe and want to advance and defend the transformation agenda of South Africa. within the framework of a constitutional democratic order. So that's what the ANC will do. It's not just the alliance, it's not just the mass democratic movement, but to appeal to a wider range of civil society organizations, non-governmental organizations, social movements, to bring them into a session together to look at in the 3 decades. And one of the important things the commissions concluded was on the balance, there are significant achievements we have made. We can list all of them, and the commissions identify those achievements. We are a constitutional democracy. We have resilient democratic institutions. We must continue to consolidate these institutions. We have had major social policy impact. Some of our social policies have benefited substantial sections of our population. Our social policy has improved the quality of life of many sections of our populations, especially the poor. But we have, on the economic front, we have significant stagnation. We are stagnating on the economy. As a result, our economy has not been able to absorb it. Unemployment has increased. COVID-19 has also increased levels of poverty and inequality, particularly among certain sections of our population. So the Commission said, on the balance of it, there is progress we have made, but our transformation agenda and constitutional democracy runs the risk. If we don't do certain things, it runs the risk of stagnating and even major reversals. In some areas, we see reversals, the collapse of basic infrastructure, the collapse of basic security are some of the things we are saying. Yeah, maybe 15 years ago we were making better progress, but now, as we go to 3 decades in democracy, there are areas of regression and there are areas of stagnation. And I'm saying basic security, basic infrastructure are some of the evident, and the economy that's not growing, levels of unemployment that's increasing, and the governance issues of ethics, and vis-a-vis corruption. Those are markers and indicators that although there are areas we have made tremendous progress on, there are areas where there are reversals and there are areas where there's stagnation. Stagnation means you have moved up to this level, you are no longer moving forward. You run the risk of reversing, but in some areas we are essentially moving in reverse. I'm summarizing what the commissions are saying. So they are saying basically, therefore, as we go into the 30th anniversary of our democracy, there are issues around which we need significant policy shifts. If we don't do those shifts, there will be, where there's stagnation, there will even be more reversals. Where we have made gains, we will completely, our democracy will stagnate and our transformation agenda will come to a standstill. So the reason and the purpose of that strategy, this series of strategy sessions or a strategy convention, as others were saying, before the elections in 2023 and another one post-elections, is to recalibrate and reinvigorate. We recalibrate and reinvigorate our transformation agenda, recalibrate our policies and reinvigorate. So why do we reinvigorate our transformation agenda? We want the transformation agenda, our democratic constitutional order, achieving the strategic objectives of the ANC, building a national democratic society, something that needs us to refresh, continuously refresh. There are new ideas, there are changes, there are new social forces. 3 decades ago, we didn't have some of the changes. We have a new type of young people in South Africa. Democracy has given rise to new social forces, new forms of organization. All those need to be brought together around these two important issues. The one is defending and advancing our constitutional democratic order. We can't allow our constitutional democratic order to stagnate. And the other is advancing our transformation agenda. Taking transformation and our constitutional democracy together is very, very important. There are those who just emphasize constitutionalism and constitutional democracy, and those who just talk about transformation. In our context, we think our constitutional order is a transformative constitutional order. It can't stagnate, it must be advanced, but it can't be done just by the ANC and the alliance alone. We need to bring everybody together and kind of shape how South Africa must look like. Yes, we have the Freedom Charter, we have our strategy and tactics, but there are many forces, progressive forces, that are saying we also need to review the electoral system, for example. So we want to bring those together. With regard to our electoral system, what are the things that need to be re-looked at and enhanced? So I took a little bit of time on this takeaway, the takeaway of this strategic session, to look at how far we have come, what we have done well, where are the threats, where are the reversals, and where is the stagnation. That's the big takeaway. The other critical issues, therefore, is the engagement with what the alliance calls the reconfiguration of the alliance. So you know, COSATU and the SACP have taken very clear positions. So in these strategic engagements, we want to look at whether it's an entirely bad thing for any of our allies to stand for election or not. Is it a bad thing? The ANC must look at that question. But what are its implications for advancing our transformation agenda? The second thing is this question, that strategy, the strategic session next year must also look at a big issue about coalitions. The ANC wants to deal with coalitions from the standpoint, the ANC doesn't want to enter into coalitions for its own sake or just to remain in government. But whether a particular coalition, a particular group of political parties will help us defend and advance our constitutional order, and whether this will help us and advance our transformation agenda. So those are the transformation of South Africa, and building and consolidating the democratic dispensation and in all its areas are going to be the very important issues around which we will look. So if you go to details around that, so the ANC is not just going to work with anyone in government simply because they are there. So we are going to be looking, so when we discuss issues of coalitions, is to what extent are these advancing the goal, the strategic goal of building a national democratic society. So I want to conclude by saying that so all the commissions, all of them without exception, made one thing very, very clear at this conference, that South Africa and the ANC are at this critical moment. We are getting to this critical moment of 3 decades of our democracy. We need to act with clarity of thought. That's why we need about where are we taking South Africa. Having been here so far, we need to act also with firm conviction and courage about addressing the problems of South Africa, including the internal discord and problems of the ANC and weaknesses across our alliance partners. This we want to do because we want to continue to state that we are committed unshakenly to the ideals espoused by previous and current generations of freedom fighters who sacrificed and suffered so that our country can be free, democratic, united, non-racial, and non-sexist. And as long as we have not restored the dignity of all our people, we will continue to strive and struggle for the transformation of our country. So the commissions are very clear, and this will be tabled before conference, that these global and domestic challenges and changes and developments don't change what the ANC stands for. So these major developments in the world and in our country will not change what our strategic goal is, to build a national democratic society. So even as we engage and rework our strategy and tactics, the ANC must continue to strive for a non-racial, non-sexist, united and prosperous society. And the ANC must continue to advance transformation. And the ANC must continue to consolidate and defend our constitutional democratic order, which must benefit the South Africans as a whole. So that's what our commission said. And then on that, the commission said we may have many tactical differences and debates on how we get there, but we are not going to change the path of building this dream that our forebears sacrificed for. And where are we now? The balance is that on some areas we have done well, and on other areas we are reversing, and on some we are stagnating. So back to the questions about the economy, basic security, crime and corruption, the capacity of the state to deliver services, and problems of collapsing infrastructure. Those issues must receive the attention of both our state and the progressive forces as a whole. I don't think there is any question.
No, they should. Okay, no, thanks, Maybe